Athletic Alert. Alongside Colin, I'm Rob, and this is our 2015 Trade Deadline Special edition of the show. Colin, tell the viewers what we're doing today.
Well, today, me and Rob each picked 4 teams from the MLB that won the trade deadline, did the best job, did the worst job, lost the trade deadline, made the most intriguing moves, and who made the smartest moves. We didn't tell each other what teams we picked, so we're here to discuss and debate the teams we chose right here on the show right now. We want to know from you, the viewers, who made the best decision. Was it me or Rob? Comment down below. We want to hear what you have to say. But we're going to start the video right now. Rob, who made the best decision? Who won the trade deadline this year?
I'm going to have to go with the Toronto Blue Jays. They made 2 huge deals that might even help them get into the playoffs. Their first deal was acquiring Troy Tulowitzki, the former shortstop of the Colorado Rockies. They traded away Jose Reyes and 3 prospects, first-round prospects, pitchers. Of all 3 of those prospects are pitchers. And in return, they got a veteran pitcher and an all-star shortstop, which they needed a big bat in that lineup. And the second trade they made was for a former Detroit Tiger all-star, David Price. They did trade away pitcher prospects, and one of the top pitcher prospects they did give up was Daniel Norris.
The Van Man.
Yes.
I love him.
So I think those 2 trades helped the Toronto Blue Jays make a push in the tightly contested AL East with the Yankees 7 games ahead at this point. You know, I think that it's going to come down very close at the end, and it'll help them if they do get a wild card spot and not the top division spot. They definitely will make a push in the run for the playoffs.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I was actually this close to choosing the Blue Jays myself. But what stopped me was, David Price is only a rental. The Blue Jays certainly made the biggest splash in the trade deadline. There's no disputing it. But, David Price, they're only going to have him for, a few months left of the season, which means they're basically going for it. If they don't make it, David Price is gone. And the other thing I was thinking was, Jose Reyes, Troy Tulowitzki is obviously better than him offensively and defensively, but Jose Reyes is their leadoff hitter. It's tough to find leadoff guys. I mean, Tulowitzki doesn't have the speed that Jose Reyes has to steal bags like that. And, I know he's a better hitter, but they have plenty of hitters on that team. I think they needed to get 2 solid starting pitchers that maybe they can keep later on, because what they did was they traded away all their pitching prospects. So, it's going to be tough for them. Once David Price leaves, now they're back to that really bad rotation that they had from the start.
Well, this is a team, as you said, that's trying to get to the World Series this year. And they know that the AL East is tightly contested, and they want to win their division. And I think that their GM's mindset is, we want to win right now. And they're going to try to convince David Price to stay if they win the World Series. And that's going to be a huge thing for him to come back if that ever did happen. But Colin, stop talking about the Blue Jays. What team do you have?
All right, Rob. Well, if you really want to know, believe it or not, I picked the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, crazy,
All right, let's hear the trades that they made.
All right, listen, I'll tell you some of the trades they made. They traded some of their big stars. They traded Ben Revere to the Blue Jays, like we just talked about, for pitching prospects Alberto Tirado and Jimmy Cordero, both pitching prospects. They traded away one of the best closers in the game, in Jonathan Papelbon. He's gone, and they also traded away Cole Hamels. So, I'm sure everybody out there is asking me, well, why the heck did you pick him?
Well, how do they win at the trade deadline? By giving up their star players.
I think it's just, the reason I picked them is because people forget in the deal that most of these deals for these big-name guys are because of the prospects you have. And the Phillies, over the years, have just been, they've been struggling because they paid all these big guys big money and they destroyed their farm system. The fan base knew it was coming, that they were going to be bad for a few years, but what they had to do was rebuild. They had to. And I think they did the best job at doing it when the fans said, oh my gosh, these guys are getting paid so much money. The ship's sinking. We're going down. The GM of the Phillies didn't freak out. He said, well, wait, there's a way we can play this out. He didn't say, guys, listen, there's a fire sale. You guys got to take them, because then they wouldn't have gotten as much value. What they did was they waited to the end of the trade deadline until people needed their players, and they were able to get tons of prospects. For their top players, they got 9 prospects to reboot their farm.
Well, this shows that the Phillies are giving up on their season, like the Detroit Tigers and that David Price trade and other trades they made along in the trade deadline. So next, we're going to go to the team that lost during the trade deadline. Colin, I see you're wearing a nice Yankee jersey, and I'm going to have to go with the New York Yankees.
Oh,
the New
your
York,
team? You're going with your own team.
I'm wearing a Yankee shirt.
Yeah, going with my team.
But I'm going to have to go with the Yankees. They did make one trade. They got Dan Akeley. He can play second base, but he's an outfielder. And they got him from the Seattle Mariners. They gave up prospect Ramon Flores, who isn't too bad, and right-handed pitcher Jose Ramirez. The Yankees plan on using him, Dan Akeley, as
Dustin Ackley. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
All right, Dustin Ackley. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Dustin Ackley. Dustin Ackley to start over Stephen Drew. I like that. I really do.
Yep.
But the Yankees were big names in this trade deadline for James Shields, Craig Kimbrell, closers. And they needed a starting pitcher as well. They might have wanted to get Johnny Cueto. They want for a closer Chapman. People were saying if they got one of those big names, especially a closer, their stars would have to go 6 innings. They put in Betances for 1, Andrew Miller for the 7th or 6th, 2 innings, and then they have a closer in Chapman or Kimbrell. That would have been the perfect scenario. And the Royals making a trade in the AL, I think it's the Yankees are way behind in the division they're in. I mean, all the trades that every other team made in their division were so much better than the Yankees deal they made. They are in a hot streak. They've been playing really well, but they're not going to be able to keep up in the long run with the Royals, with the Toronto Blue Jays, and other teams like that.
Yeah, but Rob, you got to understand, if they were to get one of those big name guys, they would have had to trade one of their top prospects. I think, you might say they lost the trade deadline, but I actually think they could be one of the winners. I mean, it showed the strength of Brian Cashman. I'm not giving up the future guys this year. It's not happening. This is a new-look Yankees team.
But Yankees fans want to win every year.
That's very true.
And CeCe went to the hospital at the game, his last start for dehydration. Ivan Nova is going on to the DL-15. They needed a pitcher, and they didn't get one. They got a second baseman, which I like, but they are definitely losers because of all the names that they were in, they could have gotten and they had their names in for. They didn't get any of those guys. But Colin, enough talk of the Yankees. Well, who do you have that lost in this trade deadline?
All I got to say is look at last year's Yankees. They pieced together a rotation. It was amazing. But anyway, back to my team. I chose the San Diego Padres for the losers of the trade deadline. And it's not because they made a trade that was horrible. The reason being was just because they stayed quiet. They didn't trade Justin Upton. They didn't trade Craig Kimbrell.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry, I said Dan.
That's true. But, they just didn't trade those guys. The GM did a great job, before the season started. I'm a Yankees fan, but I was excited for the Padres. I was like, man, they're coming out of nowhere. But they completely destroyed their farm system, and now they're realizing all the people they brought in, it's not working. So I just think they should have traded those guys away to get some prospects back because now their fans are probably thinking, oh my gosh, we're going down the Philly road again.
See, I had the San Diego Padres for a different team, for one of the intriguing, but I think the Yankees are the losers of the trade deadline because they have their farm system, it's great, but they have some holes in their major league team, and they need to fill them. I mean, how are you supposed to compete when you have CeCe Sabathia, a 4-10 pitcher on the mound, or Ivan Nova's on the DL? Who are you going to start in front of those guys? And they needed that extra piece, and they just didn't get it. I understand where you're coming from with the Padres, but let's go to the next